something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative Sport Tourism.
South Africa will dispatch special envoys to African countries and other parts of the world following a wave of xenophobic attacks targeting migrants from across the continent. President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the move on 4 June after talks with Kenyan President William Ruto in Pretoria. Ramaphosa said the objective is to ensure that migration issues are addressed through cooperation involving governments and other key stakeholders. He also said South Africans are not xenophobic and want to live peacefully alongside other Africans. The announcement comes after violence in parts of the Western Cape forced many migrants to flee their homes, with some seeking shelter in mountains and public buildings. Governments across the continent have responded to the attacks through diplomatic channels, while several countries have been assisting citizens wishing to return home. The initiative forms part of South Africa's efforts to manage the diplomatic consequences of the unrest while maintaining relationships with African partners and the broader international community. Now, staying with the same subject, the Nigerian government says more than 1,000 of its citizens have registered interest in voluntarily returning home from South Africa following recent xenophobic attacks. Nigerian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Kimiebi Ebienfa confirmed on 5 June that 1,094 people had signed up for the program, a sharp increase from the 130 individuals who had previously requested repatriation. Authorities from Nigeria and South Africa are now conducting a joint screening process to determine eligibility for the voluntary return initiative. The development reflects growing concern among Nigerian nationals following attacks directed at foreign migrants in parts of South Africa. The repatriation effort is one of several responses by African governments seeking to protect their citizens during the current period of unrest. Diplomatic engagement between Abuja and Pretoria continues as officials work through the process and monitor the situation on the ground. The registration figures underline the wider regional impact of the violence beyond South Africa's borders. Now, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as the World Health Organization, have launched a joint continental preparedness and response plan for the Bundibugyo virus Ebola outbreak affecting the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. Announced on 5 June, the 6-month initiative running from June to November seeks to mobilize $518 million under a unified one response approach. The program focuses on emergency coordination, surveillance, laboratory testing, infection prevention, clinical care, logistics, and community engagement while maintaining essential health services. The outbreak has already led to declarations of a public health emergency of international concern and a continental security emergency. The strategy is intended to support affected countries while strengthening preparedness across Africa through closer regional cooperation. The plan also aims to reduce the risk of cross-border transmission by improving collaboration between governments and health partners, reinforcing a coordinated continental approach to managing the current outbreak. We now head into the political side of things, starting with Zimbabwe, where the government is continuing with legislation that could postpone the country's next presidential election and align future electoral cycles. The proposed constitutional changes would delay the 2028 presidential vote, potentially allowing President Emmerson Mnangagwa to remain in office until 2030. The bill has become one of the most closely watched political developments in Southern Africa, and has generated significant debate within the country. Government supporters argue that synchronizing elections would improve administrative efficiency, while the proposal has drawn attention because of its implications for the existing electoral timetable. The legislation is currently moving through parliamentary processes as lawmakers consider the constitutional amendments. The issue has also attracted interest across the region because of Zimbabwe's role within SADC and the potential impact of major constitutional reforms on regional political discussions. The parliamentary process is expected to continue as the bill advances through legislative stages. And the bill also seeks to move the electoral system from public voting to members of parliament selecting the president. And in the last of our top stories, staying with politics, Somalia's government says order has been restored in parts of Mogadishu following clashes involving government forces and militias linked to opposition politicians. Authorities announced that security conditions had improved after fighting connected to disagreements over constitutional changes and the continuation in office of President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud. The violence prompted concern among regional and international partners, with calls for dialogue to address the political dispute. The government maintains that stability has returned to the affected areas, while security forces continue to monitor the situation. The developments have placed renewed attention on Somalia's political transition process and the importance of maintaining constitutional order during periods of national debate. The restoration of calm is expected to support ongoing efforts aimed at preserving stability in the capital, while discussions over constitutional matters continue through political channels and engagement between stakeholders. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. Shortly, we will be joined by Mr. Mike Sichula, who is in Lusaka, ready to deliver the Zambia report. But prior to that, let's have a look at the weather.
Is 'n eg Namibiese inisiatief. Ons reis op die hartklop van Afrika en vertel stories van mense en hulle dorpe op verskeie platforms insluitende televisie en sosiale media. Dit is joune, syne, julle en ook almal van hulle aan die ander kant van ons grense sinne en dit maak Aitsa 'n lekker ding. Kyk Aitsa maande om 18:30 op NTV, oneof2.com as ook op Netwerk Media Hub en NTV Afrikaans se YouTube kanale. Volg ons op Facebook of besoek ons webwerf by aitsafrica.com.
Business First Africa is a forward-looking business show that goes beyond balance sheets to capture how Africans are building, creating, and living. Afrotech explores innovation, AI, and digital systems shaping the continent's economies. Brave and Building profiles Namibian entrepreneurs and businesses transforming industries and urban spaces. Creative Capital spotlights creatives and the creative economy, unpacking how culture becomes value. Africa in 10 delivers a sharp roundup of key developments across the continent. Don't miss Business First Africa, because it's not just business, it's life. As we're waiting for Mr. Mike Sichula to join us, we're going to start getting into his stories. Zambia is preparing to bid farewell to Paramount Chief Mpezeni of the Ngoni people, with his burial scheduled for Tuesday, 9 June in Eastern Province. President Hakainde Hichilema has accorded the veteran traditional leader an official funeral and declared the day a national day of mourning in his honor. The mortal remains of the late chief have already arrived in Chipata and are lying in state at Ependukeni Palace ahead of final rites. Mpezeni, born David Njengembaso Jere, ascended to the throne in 1982 and served for 44 years, becoming one of Zambia's longest-serving and most recognizable traditional leaders. During his reign, he transformed the Nkwala traditional ceremony into one of the country's biggest cultural events and worked with successive administrations from Kenneth Kaunda to Hakainde Hichilema. His death has drawn tributes from government leaders, traditional authorities, and ordinary citizens, with many describing him as a unifying figure and a steadfast custodian of Ngoni culture and heritage. Now, we move over to Zambia's political atmosphere, which is steadily gathering momentum as the country moves closer to the general elections scheduled for August 13, 2026. With just over 2 months remaining before voters head to the polls, political parties and aspiring candidates are increasing their activities across the country. The approaching election has become the dominant national conversation as attention turns to campaigns, alliances, and overall direction of the race. The August poll is expected to shape the country's political future, with parties working to consolidate support of voting day. The electoral calendar has also intensified public debate around governance and leadership as citizens monitor developments in the build-up to the polls. Interest remains high as the nation enters a critical stage of the election cycle, with weeks ahead likely to bring increased political engagement. Mr. Mike Sichula is now with us. Mike, could you please take us through the first story of the late chief and as well the political climate in Zambia?
Yeah, thank you very much. So the late chief, Paramount Chief Mpezeni, will be buried tomorrow, where his late father was also buried. So as you may be aware, Paramount Chief Mpezeni was on the throne for 44 years. And during this period, he interacted with all the 7 presidents of Zambia, starting from President Kaunda, late So the preparations for the burial site have been taking place with the support of the Zambian government, and his remains were transported from Lusaka
Connectivity issues with Mr. Mike Sichula. We're going to take a quick break before we attempt to connect with him yet again in Lusaka.
Namibiërs Engelsstories. Henriette Lambreg en Germany Daddy speel hierdie stories. Soms met 'n vonkel in die oog, soms met 'n traan uitspeel. NTV se leefstylprogram van die jaar. Moenie jou weeklikse afspraak misloop nie. Elke Vrydag aand om 8uur net op NTV op DStv kanaal 285 of op GoTV kanaal 25. Of jy kan ons vang op 1up2.com of op YouTube. Gaan net na NTV Afrikaans en moenie vergeet om elke dag op Uitspeel se Facebookblad te gaan loer nie. Ons bring vir jou die interessantste stories en brokkies van oor Namibië.
Knatsie koffie.
Wat 'n mooi woord, knatsie koffie. En nee, hier's op Uitspeel.
Op uitspeel.
Uitspeel, jou speelmaat.
Do you like traveling?
Do you like to experience new places?
Well, then you should tune into On the Rock, where we explore enjoy establishments all over Namibia and South Africa. Great food, great fun, and so much more. So be sure to mark your calendar as we explore the beautiful landscapes of Namibia at the various enjoy establishments.
And where we also get to go on game drives, different activities, and meet the awesome staff of the different establishments.
We will see you there. Watch On the Rocks every Monday at 9 p.m. on DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 25.
All right, let's continue with Mr. Max Ichula's stories. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get connectivity, but we do trust he'll send us through an update via video, which we'll show tomorrow. Now, former Zambian Security Intelligence Service Director General and Liberal Democrats leader Xavier Chungu remains in police detention, despite being granted bail by the High Court. According to reports, the court granted Chungu bail on 4 June, but police continued to hold him while bond formalities were being completed. After the process was finalized, he was reportedly served with 2 additional charges, rearrested, and returned to custody. The sequence of events has attracted significant attention, with the Kazembe Lunda Royal Establishment publicly calling for his release and raising concerns over the implementation of the High Court's directive. Chungu was initially arrested on 28 May and, according to current reports, has remained in detention as legal proceedings continue. The matter has become one of Zambia's closely watched political and legal stories, with debate centering on the relationship between judicial decisions and law enforcement actions. As matters stand, the former intelligence chief remains at Kabwata police station while the case continues through the courts. All right, and it's time for us to get into some sport. The Four Nations Women's Tournament underway in Zambia brought together Zambia, Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Lesotho for a series of competitive international fixtures ahead of some major continental assignments. Citizen TV Kenya reports that Harambee Starlets traveled to Zambia as part of their preparations for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco, with the tournament running from 6 to 9 June. Now, Kenya opened its campaign against Zimbabwe before taking on the hosts Zambia, while the event has provided coaches with an opportunity to assess their squads against quality regional opposition. Head coach Beldine Odemba described the tournament as an important measure of her team's readiness for the continental showpiece, while the Kenyan squad includes returning players as well. Now, the competition has also given Zambia valuable international exposure. Of course, they do have a lot of international players, but exposure as a squad during the FIFA window, with each fixture contributing to preparation for future tournaments. I understand Mr. Mike Sichula is with us. Mr. Sichula, could you just close off with regards to the Four Nations tournament results?
So Zambia managed to beat Kenya by 4 goals to 1 during post-match penalties after the match ended 1-0 in regulation time. Then in the area fixture, Zimbabwe beat Lesotho by 3 goals to 1. So the two
All right, it seems like the network really is not with us today. We've tried. Sorry, Mr. Sichula, please continue. We're just battling with the network. All right, we'll call it a day. You have to know when it's done. All right, we're going to have a look at the economic indicators. Mrs. Chula will send us some video reports to share tomorrow. Let's have a look at the indicators on Africa. Good morning.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative Sport Tourism.